safe space. We ain't never give a reason you should hide. Compile all your questions, we taking the quest. Join Tarcia on this journey to discover the rest. Go.
Welcome to the Adoption Journey podcast. I am your host, Tarcia Smith, and welcome to yet another episode. And I am too excited to bring this story to you. We have an adoptive mom today, family, and she has a wonderful story. And from what I feel like, we might need to put our seatbelts on. That's what I feel like.
And helmet.
And helmet. Oh, Lord. And a helmet. So without further ado, hi, Valencia. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, and thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. Like this was like a yes type of moment for me.
I'm excited. So we're gonna dive right in. So
Okay.
Being that you are an adoptive mom, tell me, did you grow up feeling like I want to adopt a child, or did you get there some other kind of way? So how do we get to the mindset of even wanting to adopt?
I grew up not wanting to have kids.
Oh.
In fact, I've told my son still to this day, my biological child is 26.
Okay.
And I used to tell him, like, you're the baby Jesus. You were determined to be here because I don't know how you got here. I was not built because of parenting examples I saw growing up. I did not want to do it. But having my son, change the way I kind of looked at things, but it didn't change my feelings about wanting to have kids in a way of being responsible. But I always felt like it's my job to save, if that makes sense. Like I'm an Aquarius, so we're naturally humanitarians, right? We want to save the world.
Okay.
And because of the way I grew up, I knew a lot of kids didn't have the strength that I had growing up. So it was my job to give them that. So that was like the whole thing. And
that's
that
interesting.
led me, because when I grew up, my mother was a addict, and me and my sister bounced from place to place to place. Family, air quotes. So that feeling of never belonging, and it's not your fault, but you're suffering. I did not like that. And like that other kids had to feel that way. And I knew as a child, I really didn't have a childhood. Valencia, you're made like this for a reason. So go out and save the world.
So when you had to bounce from house to house, you never went into foster care.
Correct.
But bounced from family member to family member.
Yeah. Because when you grow up with your parents or addicts, you're not a child. So I was the older sister. I was an adult. So then when we moved here to Louisiana from California, people expected me to be a child and stay in a child's place. But I had been being an adult since like first, second grade, making sure my sister was okay in those things. And then people will let you know, you're just here. Like they really don't want you there. And that's one of the worst feelings for a child, is to feel unwanted.
Right. And is it just the two of you with your siblings?
Yeah, me and my baby sister. And even though we're a year apart, my job as the bigger sister was to take everything, so she didn't have to. Gotcha. So if something needed to be said, if my mom was gone, it was time she was gone 2-3 days at a time, we didn't have food, I don't care if I was first, second grade, it was my responsibility as the bigger sister to take care of my baby sister. So that thing in me, and I didn't complain about it, it had to be done. So that thing in me started early.
You had to grow up quick.
Yeah.
So now I
That's why I do
understand.
childish things now.
You're living your best life now.
Yes.
And so now I understand why you say, well, you know what? I've been an adult all my life. I've had to do this thing. So what I don't
Hmm.
want is kids. So I
Yeah.
understand why you have that conversation with your son.
Yeah.
Before we get to how, because now I'm intrigued with this story for just a moment. Can you
Yeah.
tell me when you found out you were pregnant with that baby? Yeah.
So when I got pregnant, I knew the moment it happened. I was grieving. So my mom was killed when I was 17, still in
Mm,
addiction. So I was still grieving that and not because I didn't allow myself to grieve because I'm the biggest sister. I got my little sister to take care of. We're going to put my grief on the side.
okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
when I got pregnant with my son, I literally knew that moment it happened. I knew it was going to be a boy, and I knew that I couldn't continue to be destructive and live in trauma. And I promised God at that time, I said, okay, I'm going to at least be here another 18 years because I was living reckless.
Okay.
I didn't care if, honestly, I didn't care if I lived or died. My son
Mm,
made me promise I would be here for at least another 18 years to raise him because no one I knew was worthy to raise this miracle child, and
yeah.
I wanted to do it right, and so it was life changing having him.
It sounds
Like
like it
my
saved
son
your
is
life.
he did, and
Yeah.
so I was scared because I was like, I don't have a parenting example. So
Mm,
common sense, do everything opposite of what you saw.
okay. Because you
And
had not only no parents, but I assume your father wasn't around,
my dad
or
my dad was military.
mm,
Some kind of way he ended off on drugs because they weren't together. He ended off on drugs and disappeared probably around the time I was in 7th grade. Um, and
and
so he still battles addiction, which I tell you, he's an adult. I told him it's his decisions, but I don't have to participate in your drama.
mm, and then grandparents, you just
I,
didn't
I
see
was
because
good at hiding, right? So as a kid, you learn to keep people out your business. Um, and all my family is from Louisiana, and we weren't here. We were in California. Um, on those phone calls, you don't say, "Hey, we out here. My mama disappearing for days at a time." No, everything's fine.
mm,
And so, but I felt when my family was made aware, and I was a kid, so we looking at it from a child's eyes.
right, right, right.
Um, I don't know how they reacted or how they felt or how they expected me and my sister to be because we weren't raised in Louisiana. California is very different. My world was very different. I was good from hiding my mom's drugs from my friends. Like when I wrote about it, I had childhood friends contact me. I didn't know that was going on, girl. That wasn't child business. I knew that. Like we
Yeah,
playing Barbies. I ain't supposed to say, "Hey, we ain't got no food." And my mom out there on drugs. Like, no, that's
yeah.
not the Barbie conversation.
It's not. It's not. Hand me that outfit right there is the Barbie conversation.
Yeah, like back in the day, it was Debbie
Yeah.
Gibson, Teen Beat magazines. Let's focus on
Right.
that.
Let's focus
I came here
on
to
that.
escape.
Right. Oh
So
my
yeah,
gosh. So it sounds like you getting pregnant saved your life, and you have this
definitely.
baby boy, and you raised
Yes.
him the total opposite way,
Yeah.
but you still knew because of what you had dealt with, I'm not having no kids.
Yeah.
So at what point, how do we get to becoming an
Here.
adoptive mom? And I might be fast forwarding a whole lot, but in my
No, it's
brain, I
no.
can't. I how
I
do we
know
get
it's gonna
there?
take a minute and probably
Okay,
a off the mic conversation for you. Okay, but let's see how you got from
okay,
there to here.
yeah.
But
How do we get there?
that all of those things led me into helping kids who needed help. right?
Okay.
So I became a CASA, court appointed special advocate. So I started going to court with kids in foster care. I was unaware, ignorant, blind to the problem until you get there. And then you see these kids with foster parents. Some look like they care, some look like um seeing that had an impact on me. And by this time my son was grown. And so I spoke with my husband and I said, I can't unsee that. We have room, we have, hey, let's just become foster parents.
And hold on, let me back you up a little bit.
Mhm.
So how do you even get to the point where you become a CASA? Like, is it something, was it in your job, or like, how
Mm-mm.
did you get there?
So it's a I've always done some sort of mentoring, um volunteering. I've always
Okay.
done that, you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
And so when I found out about becoming a CASA, I was like, I love it because you it's not paid,
Right.
right? And so when they have a child and every child doesn't get one. So let me say that as well. When a CASA. So a CASA is like the unbiased party. Your whole interest is what's best for the child, whether it's reunification or what. So like in the series in a case, right? In DCFS,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we call it here, Department of, just foster care, just say
Right.
that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The child may go through several different caseworkers. They may go through different judges. The parents may or may not cooperate. So that CASA is that one person they see once a month, that one person that go to the school, hey, what the child needs, and you advocate for what's best for that child. And
Okay.
then when they have court, you go and you give like the judge a report. Okay, they need X, Y, and Z. The visits look like this. The caseworker, my sole interest is about the child. And I love being a CASA because I was unfiltered. Because guess what? Nobody paying me.
Right.
This is strictly voluntary.
Right.
This is
Right.
strictly about the kids. I'm not going to say a child should go back with the parents. When I've been in the visits, I see how the parents act in doing this, and this. And so it's really great. And it sucks and it's sad that not every child in foster care gets a CASA.
How do they determine? And I don't know. I'm gonna have to look now because I'm in Florida to see if we have something that's equivalent to that. But
And
how
they
do they
call it something else, but they do have one, especially in the southern states,
Okay.
but they call it something else.
How do they determine which child gets a CASA?
I don't know.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know the process of saying, okay, this child in care gets a CASA. Excuse me, this one don't. I don't know their determining process with that part.
Okay. Okay. But you are
So
advocating for these babies.
going to
And
court crying, driving home crying from court,
yeah,
and I don't,
right.
and so go
So
ahead.
you become a CASA and
Mhm.
then go ahead and turn that corner.
Okay, so I see the need. Me and my husband got certified for foster parents. So then
Okay.
at that point I started doing and I was like, okay, so we became a foster slash adoptive home because I was like, I don't want to have a child that has nowhere to go. They can't go back. And we like, no, deuces, we're not doing it. So we became both.
Okay.
Okay. So kind of fast forward a bit. So we did like a lot of emergency cases, and
Mhm.
then there was one child we had him for like almost a year, but things happened and the parents did get their stuff together. Okay, so
You can go
here's your
back.
yeah.
Right. Mhm.
So I was taking like a whole emotional break because my son was deployed at the time.
Mm.
Hurricane Ida happened.
Mm.
I'm a fast forward all the above.
Whew.
And long story short, I had a family member call me and say, "Hey, did you hear about what happened?" And I'm like, "Girl, what is you talking about?" That's how the twins ended up in foster care. They had a situation, and I was like, oh, and she knew that I was a CASA and certified, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I was like, okay, so let me see what I could find out, because there's no reason for me to have family in foster care and all my certifications, everything. Like I know them people, you know.
Right, right.
So I didn't even know their name. I knew
Okay.
their
Are they
mom's name.
okay? Were they distant relatives or
They're well, we all have that branch of the family tree, and they
right
were from that
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 branch?
branch, but then they are so biologically they're my third cousins.
I understand.
But I hadn't seen their, I call her a donor. I hadn't seen their donor since she was like 1 or 2, because I didn't, you talking about age gap differences. I don't
Right,
live like that, you know.
right.
Um so I made some phone calls. I was like, look, this is the mother's name. I heard she had kids in foster care. Find them, my certification, backgrounds, everything good. We have room. I currently didn't have any kids. And it kind of went from there.
And how old do you mind telling me how old were
Oh no.
they at the time?
They were 18
Oh,
months.
they're babies.
They were not, they were malnourished,
Mm,
behind on shots. They weren't walking. And I had never had a child that young in my home, right?
okay,
Like I had a you ready to be potty trained rule.
gotcha. So if they're not walking, they're not potty trained either.
Oh my gosh. And then it's funny. Look at, because they had these big heads and these little
Tiny
little
bodies because they're
bodies.
malnourished. Oh,
And it was, I wasn't, I don't want to say I wasn't prepared, um because you never gonna be prepared. Opportunity shows up, right?
mm-hmm.
So you never gonna be your idea of prepared,
Right,
but I had to.
right. You had to snap. Yeah,
I
yeah.
had to, and I couldn't tell them apart at first. So I dressed one in pink and one in purple
Okay.
to be able to tell them apart. And yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
wherever you
Okay.
want
So
to go.
I have all the questions. Okay, my first question, because you already had the mindset that I don't want to be a parent. Then you have
Yeah.
your baby, and then now he's grown, and not only do you start over, but there's two, and
Yeah.
there's health issues.
Hmm.
Mentally, how do you handle this? Because I know you just said you're never prepared, but mentally
Yeah.
you had to go somewhere. How do you handle that?
I just in my daily functioning, getting myself out of childhood trauma self,
Mhm.
I've learned how to take care of this person.
Okay.
So I meditate. I, believe in self-care and those things. All those things to bring me to a center to where I could radiate light, if that makes sense, and not
That
too
makes total
weak.
sense. And I love that you're touching on that because
Yeah.
I was just having a conversation with someone that you can't self-care if you
Mhm.
can't deal with the trauma.
Yep.
You can do all the yoga you want, but if
Hmm.
you still carrying, and I love that you said, let me ask, I'm not going to assume.
Hmm.
Did you go to therapy to help with that childhood trauma?
No.
Really?
Um, I went to therapy to make me a better foster parent.
Mm,
But because I wanted to make sure that some things were released. But writing has
okay.
always been my therapy.
Mm,
In the midst of going through childhood trauma, I wrote, whether it was what was going on, how I was feeling, or a made up
okay.
story.
Okay.
Um, and that is, I think, the one thing that kind of saved me from going too far down a rabbit hole. And
Yeah.
I'm very analytical. So even as a kid, I knew nothing's going to break me. I'm going to deal with this, but this is not going to be my situation forever. And that's, I'm an Aquarius. I have to say that all the time. We we very much go into analytical mode. Valencia, you could cry or you could do what you gotta do and take care of your baby sister. You can't make your mama stop doing drugs. Take care of
Yeah.
your sister.
I just don't know if I would have, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I would have been that strong because, and then you get these babies,
Hmm.
and I'm going to assume, these babies are crying. They're
Oh
not
my.
well. Oh,
One thing about me that has remained true, I love sleep. Sleep is my best friend in
you
my
wasn't
head.
getting any.
Because they were used to being together in like a playpen. And here it
Okay.
is, me with my fancy grown ideal parent self. Me and my husband had two of everything. Two
Oh,
playpens,
that
two
didn't work for
cribs,
them.
two, and they weren't used to not being together.
Yeah.
And because of the particular trauma in their life happened at a certain time of night,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't sleep. They would get to sleep, but around that time of night, they would
They're
wake
waking
up
up.
and holler. How somebody didn't call the police, I don't know.
Oh,
My husband have several pictures of me on the couch sleep holding one of them. We sleeping at the same time. He got one, I got one. I
and
learned
they
how
would
to
sleep
rock.
like that.
They
You
would,
got
yeah. So I would have one here and like one on my leg, and I'm rocking and singing off key and come on, girl, all
yeah.
the things. And um, those first couple of months
Oh, they
were
were rough.
probably, yeah, and then even taking them to the doctor to get them caught up on shots
Mm,
because with twins, one got to go first.
yeah. Yeah.
So those first few months, yeah, it was trying, but then in the first few months, I saw them gain weight. They took first few steps. Like I posted the video, and even watching it now, I cry.
Oh.
Um, and it was so you gotta. It's amazing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I remember not getting sleep, but I remember their first steps.
Right.
You know.
And it's one of those things where the days were long, but when you were able to look where they were from point A to point B,
Yeah.
then it probably felt like, okay, I'm doing something right.
And that was my biggest fear because before that I never had kids in my home with that level of trauma.
Yeah.
So it was a learning experience for me. And but what kind of worked for me is that I did have that experience of being a CASA and a foster parent. So I had resources in the fostering community, DCFS, people that knew me and they know I didn't play. I made sure they had a CASA. I said I don't care who on your list, what because we still had to do court and stuff.
Right.
Um anything that so I go into action mode. Any resources that's available to them, they need that. All of it. Whatever it is that they need to get them where they need to be plus because I knew
Mm-hmm.
they were kind of coming in at I don't like the word disadvantage. They weren't where they needed to be by the book. And
Mm-hmm.
I write books, so they're gonna be past the book.
I understand.
So
Because it's one thing for someone to tell you, well, this is what's going on with the twins
yeah,
and blah, 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 blah. But when you get them and
yeah,
find out this is what's going on with the twins,
yeah,
oh my
yeah.
gosh.
It was
I
they
wanna
really didn't tell me anything. Anyone that has kind of sort of dealt with the system know that you don't get all the story till the child comes into your home.
right, 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 right. I want to ask you about your husband
Mhm,
because he's
mhm.
in the trenches with you. How
He is.
take me back? How's he doing during this
He's
time?
living his best. I'm daddy's, they're daddy's girls. He's living his best life. They get on my nerves. Like I told him, I said, as soon as I hit a couple million, I'm going to pay child support. Like you and them girls can have the house because you can't tell them nothing
N-
about
Their daddy.
daddy. And my husband's my best friend.
Love
and we were best friends before we got married. And he always knew my heart to help kids, and that heart to
Mhm.
help kids went from volunteering to a CASA to foster parent. And he rolled with me.
Yes, he did. That yeah.
Um,
'Cause
he
but
grew up
no, no.
similar.
Okay, okay. That's what
Um,
we right here. I was going there.
yeah, he but he knew who he married, because I was old enough when we got married to say, I'm this, and this, and this. This is who I am.
Okay.
And no, this is me.
Okay.
I'm gonna always volunteer. Whether it's a battered women's shelter, whether it was after hurricanes, I that's life to me.
Mhm.
And so he rolled with it, and he took off a couple of days. He was losing sleep though when he had to go to work. We were a team because we knew the bigger purpose, and
Right.
he has my back better than I have my own back.
Mm.
And watching a girl, I couldn't have did it without out him. And that's like
Yeah.
me. I did the single parent thing once. I couldn't do it again.
Yeah. It's not for the weak
Yeah.
at all. It's not for the
Yeah.
weak. I love that he was in the trenches with you,
Yeah.
because that could have made y'all or broke y'all.
Mm-hmm.
It really could have.
Mm-hmm.
And now, daddy's girls. Like,
Oh,
whoa.
from day one. From day
Love
one.
that.
The one thing, kind of going back to what you said, because that's one of the things they tell you when you become a foster parent. Like, this could, break a marriage if it's not strong, and all this, and this. And I'm like, let me tell you what I'm not about to do. But I knew me and my husband,
Yeah.
and it I don't want to say it didn't. I think maybe because we had built that friendship.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew he was marrying somebody that felt like she could change the world.
Mm.
And I think maybe for people, because I know people that have had problems in marriages that have broke up from people being foster parents. Now I'm like, really? That? Like, to me, it doesn't make sense. But I guess I understand it. But he knew who he married.
Mm-hmm. And I could
And
understand it, because if you don't have that foundation
yeah.
going into foster care, and
Mhm.
when you get these babies, you don't know
Yep.
what's coming into your home, and it
Yeah.
could rock your world, and you were not prepared.
Yeah.
And so, and if the foundation is already shaky,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's mhm,
hurricane. It's a
yeah,
hurricane.
for sure.
And you have
Um,
to communicate with that,
whew,
with your partner. Um,
yeah,
and I think a lot of people miss that piece, because it's I'm sorry, ideally
no, you're fine.
bringing the kids into a family. Families communicate, good, bad, or ugly. We are communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little different with the girls because I was going through perimenopause. Another time, another show.
Whole another
So you talking about,
podcast.
so I was already kind of moody, emotional, all over the place.
Yeah.
Communication and being open and being able to share. Like, my husband is the reason why I didn't break, so to speak.
Mm,
Like, I'm such a strong person, but with him, I could be soft. I could
okay.
be, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
Like,
get
he's
that.
literally, he's the reason why literally I've done 99.9 of the things I've done, because I wasn't worried about believing in me and what I could do. I just knew I wanted to do it. So he added the extra spice in the gumbo to be like, this,
Yeah,
you got it.
let's
You could
go.
do
You
anything.
got it. Let's go. Now,
Yeah.
does your husband, because I'm assuming you got, like you said, you got married a little later in life. Did your husband have
Mhm.
kids also?
Yes, I have two bonus daughters.
Okay.
And and they're older, like now they're 21 and 17. And my
Okay.
son's
So older.
26.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone is
Um
older.
I never wanted to be a girl mom. I always wanted to send girls
Yeah.
home. I have girl cousins, and they, to me, now they think this is funny, because they say it's my karma. Because I would let them come to my house, but you going home. You can't play in my makeup, nails. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
So
I'm a
this
boy
is
mom,
karma, no doubt.
and I have a bonus daughter as well. So,
You
but I
know,
always, even in my little senior book, I wrote, like, listen, how many kids do you want? 2 boys. And I
see,
want to be a girl mom.
yeah.
So I can resonate with that for sure. You know what? I'm loving this conversation because there are people out there listening to this that are thinking
Mm,
about being foster parents, thinking about adopting.
yeah,
And these are the things that people don't think about.
yeah.
I think sometimes people just think, I'm going to jump into this and I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to have a baby or a child, or, however old.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not thinking about the things that come along
With that,
with
yeah,
that.
it's and I see that, like, people that's like, I'm gonna go in and save the world, but you don't have any real world experience,
Mm,
right? So you can't go at a child like, I'm here to save you and take you from your parents. No, that's not your job.
that's not your job.
And every child, if you, especially if you're dealing with older kids or however, don't know or want to be saved. They just want to be safe.
Say that again. They don't want to be saved. They
Saved,
just want
right.
to
They
be
just want to be safe.
safe.
They just want security. They just want, like, as a kid, I didn't know I needed to be saved. So if somebody would have said, You're in my house because I'm saving you, what? I don't need to be
What?
saved. But if you say, I'm here to give you a safe place, a secure
Right.
place, then I'm going to respect you. And that's how those bonds are built when you're dealing with kids that's not biologically yours or even your own biological child.
Mm,
That's all kids. They don't know about X, Y, and Z. They just want to be able to go to bed and be, they want comfort. As
comfort. I need
adults, we want that.
a meal, some meals, snacks, someplace
Yeah.
to go out. And if they're young enough, play
Yeah.
or games or whatever. Safe.
Yeah. Because even people, oh my God, they stealing, hiding food. It's called food insecurity. Right? A lot of kids in foster care have that. Are you judging them, or are you providing a safe, secure environment? Them hiding snacks, that's part of their security. And it's
Mm-hmm.
your job as a foster parent, whatever, is to make them feel secure so they don't, they grow out of that.
Right. That's
Let
amazing.
me calm
Yeah.
down, girl. I
Ooh,
get on that
ooh,
soapbox. I told you I'm
ooh.
here to
Come on back.
save
That's
the world.
save the world, girl. Now, I'm gonna fast forward you
Mhm.
to a point that I know your babies are not at yet, because I want to know how you would handle this. If and when they get to a point, what happened? Where are my parents? How do you intend to walk down that road?
Okay, so let me ask for our answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, do you want the politically correct answer or the real
I
answer?
want the real answer.
Okay. When the girls get to, because their trauma was very public, right? It was
Okay.
in the paper here locally.
All right.
If when because I'm never going to hide that from them, not so much the story, but I mean, my husband's white, right? And the girls are 100% black. So they're gonna be like, wait a minute, the math not math, and what's going on?
Okay.
um, and then they are related to me. So I'm gonna make sure that they are aware, because I don't ever want someone to use their story against them
Mm,
to try to make them feel bad, because they live in their whole best, they have a better childhood than my son had, because I'm mature and got money now, you know? So,
right.
and
Right.
I'm going to teach them different things so they never allow anyone to use that against them. But when
Okay.
that question come, when those whys come,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm their donor. She's going to answer that.
Oof.
The other donor, hopefully he's up under the jail. but it's not my job to answer why y'all were garbage. So I've already decided. I've made it known in my own ways. Like I said, we're related. When that day comes, that's not for me to answer. My job is to make sure they know they're safe, secure, loved, and everything happens for a reason because they have a better life. Period.
Mm-hmm.
More love. More
Mm.
love. Like this is how they were supposed to be. So I
Mm.
always say, um, they were mine at birth. It just took 18 months for them to get to me. But when it
Okay.
comes to that why and that trauma, she better be prepared and she's going to have to answer them. So
Mm.
that's the unfiltered what's going to happen. But the filtered, we're going to go to therapy and try to come up with a resolution.
See, that's the answer I didn't want. Although I'm sure that you're going to take them to therapy.
Oh,
But
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Because their first realization is daddy, not my daddy.
right.
That's going to be their first realization because at their age, they already understand by however means. I blame daycare, probably, I don't know, that we're brown and daddy is white. So they're already realizing this. So that conversations are going to have to be had.
Right.
Um, and we're going to go at it, deal with it as it comes. But when the hard conversations,
Hard
questions get
conversations.
asked,
Yeah.
they're gonna know and they're gonna be prepared, and they're going to have that strength and that softness to ask the questions they need to ask, and they're gonna get whatever answers to the best of their
There.
ability at the time. But they're gonna also realize that the answer they get don't make or break them.
Mm.
A dog could give birth. That don't make it a mama. I've been mama since they came on this planet. It just took 18 months for them to get here.
So now, and especially being that your husband is white,
Hmm.
so I'm sure, or if not already, the adoption conversation has that. Is that a
The
word in your
adoption,
home?
the adoption happened December 15th.
Like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. The adoption,
It
the
just happened.
yes,
So that's not a word in your
yes,
home yet. Is
yes.
it
It was
going to be a word in your home? Let's say that. Is it going to
no.
be really? Why
I
not?
I don't even honestly. So we had a sign put up in the yard, and
Mm-hmm.
even when I made the Facebook post just showing the journey, because I always advocate people to become CASAs or foster parents or adoptive parents. It is our Forever Family Day. So the sign
Okay.
we had in the yard said "Happy Forever Family Day."
Okay.
Um, because I
But
never even looked at that as a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like adoption. Like we never looked at it like that. It was just
mm,
like we just spent changing their birth certificates.
so here's why I asked the question,
Mhm.
because I'm an adoptee and
Mhm.
I found out very, very early on.
Mhm.
And so and from just conversations that I've had, I just feel like, especially being that they have this trauma that they'll deal with much later
Yeah.
on, but just knowing that piece, they're fine. They're fine.
Okay, can you mama doing something? Can you give me a minute? I'm sorry.
Mm-mm. And no, don't apologize. They need
So
mama
that's something that changed
now.
with the adoption as well. No more daycare.
Ah,
Because daycare is a mortgage. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna run this business and keep them at home. How many weeks I am in, we're gonna
yeah.
have to.
Check back with me in 6 months.
Yeah,
The little, I see her back there, but
yeah.
they're fine. They're fine. um, just knowing that, and they'll know because daddy's a different color, so
Yeah.
that in itself is gonna just help. I feel like a little
Yeah.
bit later on, just knowing. But your term would be forever family
Yeah.
and not adoption.
Yeah.
I
They
understand.
were
I
The
understand.
good thing is that I've connected. I think you connect with people with where you are, what you need, right? So in this process, I've connected with a lady, and then she told me that she was adopted.
Hmm.
So it brought some questions that I was able to ask her, and just different insights and stuff. So I look forward to tapping on my resources as I need it.
Yeah.
But my hold on, okay, go ahead. But my uncle on my mom's side. So the girls are on my dad's side. My uncle on my mom's side
Okay.
adopted a son from birth.
Hmm.
He's late teens now. We've never used that word.
Mm.
That's just always with our cousin. Like, so that's
Right,
just
right,
like
right.
it.
And
Yeah.
even for me, because I was adopted at like 5 weeks, and I'm only saying this now because just to differentiate, but my
Yeah.
adoptive family, like we've
Yeah.
never used the word adoptive parents, adoptive cousins, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's mama and daddy. Those are my
Yeah.
cousins.
All day.
All
I'm the
day.
one that lost sleep. I'm mama.
Right, right. And so, but I just knew that I was
Yeah.
adopted. And I think for me, just growing up, knowing what that meant, just growing up, just understanding, not that it made a difference, but just
Hmm.
knowing, I think that helped me because later on down the line, I did reconnect with both sides.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, that's a whole nother podcast. So,
Is that an off podcast discussion?
no,
But
but
yeah, no,
it's a
I
whole
understand.
nother podcast though. But I did reconnect. And I just think knowing, just because I never thought anything of it. It
Okay.
wasn't a big deal. It's just, this
Yeah.
is what it, okay.
Is so let me ask you this, even though it's your podcast, I'm sorry. Can I
No,
ask
that's
you a
okay.
question?
Absolutely.
Was it a feeling, or was it just a knowing?
Just, what do you mean?
Meaning,
Knowing?
did you feel different? Did you feel
No, I
okay?
just knew
So
I
it was
looked
just
different.
you. It was just knowledge.
Right.
Okay.
My parents are Black, but my mother is
Okay.
a lot lighter than me. And so
Hmm.
is that side of the family. And, you kind of tend to be raised, I don't know why this is, but more like around your mom's side than your dad's side. And
Yeah.
while I know my dad's side for sure, but I was raised more around my mom's side. And so I just always knew I didn't look like anybody. I
Mm.
didn't even look like anybody in the house, but I never felt different. I can say I did things a little differently, and I kind
Yeah.
of picked up on that as I got older, and this was like teenager, whatever. So I knew I
Yeah.
did things differently. But me personally, I never felt like I didn't belong. I never felt,
Okay.
those
That's
kinds
good.
of feelings. I didn't feel like that. Me and my cousins to this day are like
That's
that.
that's
So yeah, I didn't feel like that. So that's why I said just them growing up, just knowing,
yeah.
just knowing.
They're definitely going to know. They're definitely going to know, but I think if it wasn't an obvious knowing, they probably wouldn't know, because they do favor me,
Okay.
because
Because you are
that
related.
side of the family, yeah,
Yeah.
that even
Yeah.
though they're
You are
third
related.
cousins, that side of the family, the genes are very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have my eyebrows, my cheeks, and everything.
Yeah. You are
And so
related.
that it's like I want them to know, and I'm will kind of I'm never gonna
See,
lie to them.
yeah.
So when they ask, you know, I'm a present. We're gonna talk. We're gonna discuss. I'm
And
gonna
that's the
make
key
sure.
right there.
Yeah,
What you just said, I'm not going to lie to them and I'm going to communicate. I think
yeah,
that's where sometimes uh, adoptive parents mess up at, that
yeah,
part right there, especially back in the day, them old
yeah,
school. That's where they messed up right there.
yeah.
But it
Or
sounds like you
dismiss the
or
child's
dismiss.
feelings, because I've heard those stories.
Yeah, dismissing.
Like you in a better place. Don't worry about that. I saved you.
Ooh.
That type. I've
Yeah,
heard
don't do
those stories.
that.
I was like, oh my gosh, who are
Yeah.
these people?
Yeah, forget about
Again,
that
doing
one.
opposite.
Yeah,
Doing
yeah,
opposite.
yeah, that one. So my
Yeah.
final question for you is if you had to say anything to foster parents or people that's thinking about fostering, what would you leave them with?
I would say when your heart and your head match on a thing, whether it's a goal, whether it's a child, whether it's saving the world, when your heart and your head match, do it because it's going to get you through anything. If they don't match, you're going to stumble, you're going to question, you're going to all those things. But when they match, it's going to work out. Because sometimes you need to think more, and sometimes you need to feel more. So you need both of them to match, and then you'll be able to do it. I hope that makes sense.
That makes so much sense. And I love that. And I want to thank you for coming on to the podcast. This is going to help
you so much.
somebody. Somebody needs to hear your insight, your story. And either they're going to say, you know what, maybe I don't want to foster.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Or maybe they will, go forward with it. But thank you again for joining us. And until next week, bye, family.
Yay, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Journey on. You need a pie with the good. Oh yeah, what is the one? Adoption.